Okay. Abutai, we are going to continue Hilchot Yom Tov. This is our third shir in Hilchot Yom Tov. And today, we're going to start off with the malacha of Tochen, right? So Tochen, Tahina, this is the grinding, okay? Grinding something down. Now, we already saw earlier, if you want to just flip to this page for a second, on page 81, you have the Rosh, and the Rosh explaining in which malachas you're allowed to do la'ochel nefesh. On Yom Tov, he says, Eiler Rabbanan hu degoizer, the last paragraph on page 81. Eiler Rabbanan hu degoizer, al ktsira v'tzira v'tchina, lepisha adam rago livtzor karmo ke'echad, v'litzor sadeo ke'echad, v'litchon harbe beyachad. Since the harvesting, reaping, harvesting, and grinding are usually done in big numbers, in bulk, it's a weekday activity. It's not kitchen activity. So never get away the thought that says, Oichel Nefesh, I want to do Malacha Oichel Nefesh on Yom Tov, I can do anything. No, you can only do stuff that are kitchen activity related, stuff that is done in the house. Cannot go on Yom Tov and say, I want to get food, so I'm going to drive my car, Oichel Nefesh, drive my car to the store, buy it. You can't do any of that, right? It starts militia and forward. We saw that. So we saw you cannot do grinding. So let's take a look in the Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch on page 97 in source 46. Page 97, source 46. Ktsira, tchina, ktsira, v'schita, v'tzida. So harvesting, grinding, harvesting grapes, squeezing them, schita. Okay, squeezing, and trapping. Afal pishahem melechet ochel nefesh. Even though they're melechet ochel nefesh, meaning they're done for food, right? Asurim chachamim. Rabbinically, they are forbidden to do on Yom Tov because those are too early in the stages of preparation for food. Chacham only want to allow you to do stuff that are associated with actual food preparation. So now there is a Mishnah and Gemara in Masechet Beitza on Daf Yudalin Amud Aleph. So take a look inside on your page 97, source 47. And here it says as follows. We're going to find the case where you're allowed to grind on Yom Tov. Bet Shammai Omrim. Tavlin nidochin v'madoch shel etz. You're allowed to crush a spice with a wooden pestle, right? So usually they would use a madoch of stone and medocha, a light mortar stone, and they're pounded with a madoch. Yes, for grinding. Exactly. So says Bet Shammai, you can grind spices on Yom Tov, but you gotta do a little bit of a shinui. You have to use etz, a wooden one, not a stone one that they usually use. Melach, but salt, befach. You have to do it with an earthenware flask. It has to be an even further shinui, uve'etz hafarur, and with a wooden mixing spoon. So Bet Shammai is saying, when it comes to regular spice, I can do it with one shinui. When it comes to salt, I got to do it with a two shinuyim, so with a further shinui. Ubed Hillel Omrim, Bet Hillel says, Tavlin nidochin kidarkan. On Yom Tov, if I want to grind my spice on Yom Tov, I can do it regularly without a shinui. B'madoch shel even, with a wooden pestle. V'hamelech, but when it comes to salt, b'madoch shel etz. Even Bet Hillel says you have to do one shinui. You have to use a wooden pestle and not a stone pestle. Now, the Gemara. So very good, very good. You're saying usually Taichen is a early stage of cooking, is preparing for food. But we're going to see spices might be considered a kitchen activity, grinding a spice. Exactly. Like you have a peppercorn thingy mill, whatever they do, right? Why? Because you want it fresh. Now, to take a look in the Gemara. So the Gemara says that kule alma mihat. At any rate, all agree melach v'aya shinui, that salt requires a shinui. Beit Shammai says a bigger shinui. Beit Hillel says a smaller shinui. But everyone agrees if you want to grind salt on Yom Tov, it has to be done with the shinui. Matama, what's the reason that salt has to be done with the shinui? So you have Rav Huna Rav Chizda. Rav Huna Rav Chizda. Chad Omar Kol HaKederot Kulan Tzrichot Melach Ve'en Kol HaKederot Tzrichot Tavlin. Says one of them say that what? Everything needs salt. Every dish needs salt. You can't have a dish without salt. As such, you knew you need salt. You should have done it before Yom Tov.
Even without the meat?
You need to have salt on hand. So therefore, since you know you need salt, you should have done it beforehand. You didn't do it beforehand, we're going to allow you to do it Yom Tov, but shinui. The other one says, I'll tell you the reason. Kol tavlin mefigin ta'aman. All other spices, if I grind them, once I grind them and they sit out, they start losing their flavor. It's not the same freshly grind pepper versus pepper in the bottle, right? It's different, right? Umelach, but salt ena mefiga ta'ama. But salt does not what's it called, get ruined. Salt stays salt. So therefore, you cannot tell me I have to grind the salt on Yom Tov, because you can grind it beforehand and it's just as good. In their time, it wasn't. So, my banana, what is the difference between two of these opinions? What is the difference between these two opinions? Whether it is, I always know I need salt, therefore I should have done it beforehand, or salt doesn't get ruined. Ika benayu di adam makedera ba levashule. If he knows what he is going to be cooking, because if he knows what he's going to be cooking, then he knows what spices he needs. So he can grind everything. If the whole reason why salt grinding on Yom Tov, I need to do with the shinui because I could have prepared it beforehand, right? Because I always know I need salt. So if I know I'm going to make lachmanjin or whatever they have there, whatever food it is, and I know I need a certain spices for it, so I should have done it before Yom Tov. So if I have to do it on Yom Tov, to do with the shinui. Inami, or another reason, bemorika, with the saffron spice. Saffron is similar to salt. It doesn't lose its flavor. So saffron. Bemorika.
Saffron, it's a yellow like a powder. Saffron?
Yeah, saffron.
From Iran. Thank you very much.
From Iran. Okay, from Iran.
Yeah, but you're not telling me.
He wants it in Hebrew. You tell them in Hebrew or in Arabic.
That's all for the saffron flour. But so today is not organic to us. But everything comes ready. I think so.
Right. But we're dealing with the Talmudical times at this moment.
Here, saffron. I think saffron is make it rice yellow color.
Za'afran. Za'afran.
Like little bit like this. Small package,
karkom.
$60. Kurkum.
Yeah.
Kurkum, no karkum.
Here it's written karkum, so I just read what it says.
No, karkum другой, saffron другой.
Is it? I don't know.
No. Saffron different, karkum different.
I don't know. Whatever it is, it's a spice that will not get ruined. Therefore, it's like salt. Yeah. So you see over here, what do we come out with, Obotai, from this Gemara? What do we come out from this Gemara? And we see that you're allowed to grind something on Yom Tov. Right? Earlier we say you're not allowed to do any grinding, right? Because grinding is a too early stage of cooking. But now we're saying there's some grinding that you're allowed to do on Yom Tov. So take a look at the Shulchan Aruch in source 48.
We're talking about grounding handy. Handy.
In the hand, yeah.
Not a machine.
Maybe, why not?
Oh, you're allowed to?
A manual, why not? Manual.
No,
even electric, we're going to see what the Chacham Avadia said you can do with electric. Hold on, let's get there slowly. 1 minute. So right now we're talking about grinding it in a mortar and a pestle. Okay, so you have a ball and you have a thing and you're hitting it. That time regular was done with stone. Shinui was done with wood or something else. Okay, now it says in the Shulchan Aruch in source 48. You're allowed to grind spices in the usual manner. Why? Shem yudochotam mib'od yom yafik taman. Because if you would have grind them early in the day, erev yom tov, they're going to get ruined. But eno nidoch b'yom tov. But salt does not get ruined. Okay.
It's the same way.
But if he wants to grind it, then he has to do it with a shinui. Okay. Salt.
What are you talking about? We're talking about
This is the halacha.
2,000 years. It means you take the salt from the sea.
Yeah.
From the sea.
The Shulchan Aruch says as follows: a spice that will get ruined, I'm allowed to, without any shuni, grind it on Yom Tov. That's it. A spice like salt that will not get ruined, I have to do it before Yom Tov. If I didn't do it before Yom Tov, I'm allowed to do it on Yom Tov, but I have to do it with a shinui. They do?
You buy like, I don't know, Himalayan salt, you just go like this. It's silly, we don't need to really.
Then the Shulchan Aruch says, all this is talking about a hand type of thing. You cannot do it in the mill, because that looks too much like Ka'ovdin Dechol. But you can use a mortar and a pestle like all other spices, talking about for pepper and mustard.
What's in the mill?
A mill is a...
Is we allowed to do this in the Yom Tov? This one? No?
The Shulchan Aruch said, well, when it comes to, one may not grind peppers or mustard in their mill, as this resembles a weekday activity. Rather, one may pound them with a pestle like all other spices. Okay? So you always have the issue of the Nechol, so anything that looks to weekday activity, you can't do.
No,
Now,
not allowed. Says
the Ramah, Umihu, by the Ashkenazim, Noigin, Lishnot, Kitzat, Bedicha, Tavlin, Chinroi, Lahorot. Says the Ramah, when whatever spice it is, even the spice that will get ruined if you did it early, or even if it's a spice that's not, always do it with some sort of shinui. That's what the Ramah says. Okay? Now, the Mishnah Berurah says, with garlic, onion, and horseradish, all agree that one should not pound them in Yom Tov, even if he knows he will need them the next day, as they completely lose their flavor. But some write, according to the Ramah, there's no difference whether it gets ruined or not. He has to do it on Yom Tov with the shinui. And this way, people will remember that crushing more than what is needed for that day is forbidden. The Mishnah Berurah says you can do it, but like the Ramah, you should try to do it with a shinui.
So we're allowed to do this shinui.
Okay, so here in the Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata, I'm going to review all the halachot in a minute. In 1 second, we came up and just look at the final points over here. All the Chol Zeh Mutar. Look on page 99, source 50 in the bold. The Chol Zeh Mutar. Av Shelo B'Samoch LeSeudah. I'm allowed to go ahead and grind these spices even before it's not even the Sudah yet. I'm grinding in the morning for the Sudah during the daytime later on.
You need to cook.
But I cannot do it for today, for the second day of Yom Tov. Okay, so now we'll step away from the Tzurba for a moment, and we're going to review the halachot here in this beautiful sefer, Rabbi Nachson, and let's see what he says about grinding. So what came out of this sugya, what we saw from the Gemara, what we saw from the Mishnah, what we saw from the halakha, was grinding is asur to do. What grinding? Grinding that is industrial grinding. Stuff that can be done in the kitchen for that moment, that you're allowed to, that's what you're allowed to grind. That's kitchen preparation. That is mutar on Yom Tov. And the Ramah says you should always do it with the shinui. Okay, now let's take a look over here what he has to say. No.
Okay.
So here, Rabbi Nachshon puts it in order. Listen, he says, first of all, food that is normally ground in large quantities may not be ground on Yom Tov, even in small quantities. So if there's a food that's something that's done industrial, you cannot do it non-industrial at home. You cannot do that. That's it. That's of the chol. You cannot do that.
If you have a lot of people,
any food that may lose its taste if ground prior to Yom Tov may be ground on Yom Tov in its usual manner, even with a masher or a grater. I can use a masher or a grater to grind something on Yom Tov if it's something that will get ruined before Yom Tov. One may grind fish, meat, cheese in a regular grinder, a manual one, even without a shinui. However, if it could be done before Yom Tov, and now he's doing it on Yom Tov, he has to do it with the shinui. Now, while we're on this,
Shinui means Shinui
any shinui.
Shinui position or what? You
Uh,
have to ground it. You have to ground it. You do it this way. You do it this way. It's gonna be ground. איזה שינוי יש לך בזה? יצא לנו שינוי.
holding the grater upside down or grinding the food on top of a countertop instead of a bowl, as one would use any type of shinui. So usually I put a bowl in there. I didn't put no bowl there. I just let it go straight to the counter. Right? Any type of shinui, that would be considered shinui. If I usually do it here and I take it over there, that also could be considered a shinui in certain situations. Now, what I wanted to bring out is this. Listen to what he says over here. Listen what the Yakut Yosef in Hilchot Yom Tov, 7504, in Halacha 4, he says as follows. It's likewise permissible to grind meat in a meat grinder. And look before in 502.33. Let's see what he says over here. 502.33. That's what he says here. So you see someone doing it, don't get shot. It's permissible to use an electric mixer or blender on Yom Tov to mash carrots or potatoes. But it has to be set up before Yom Tov with a timer. So if I can set up my blender with a timer to go on and off, and I can set up my grinder, electric grinder to go on and off, it's permissible, even if the machine makes loud noise, he says over here. Yeah, he said you could do the same thing with the dishwashing machine. If I can get my dishwashing machine on a timer, put it in, all this you can do with a timer.
Right. But washing dishes is not like cooking. They have to wait.
The Kiddush here is, he said you could do it with the timer.
Why? No.
The what?
Washing machine is not
Of this is in using a fire.
How about the
This is about using a fire.
One with the
Yeah, so he brings in here and the spices, the tavlin shel Yom Tov, that we talked about, the grinding. He says, likewise, permissible to grind meat in a meat grinder. And see above, where it's explained that it's permissible in Yom Tov to use an electric mixer / grinder if it is set up to operate it with a timer. Fire. Ish Yom Tov. What? And he says that's not a problem. He says don't even bring up loud noise. Right, going with the loud noise? Yeah. So he's saying this is what he's saying why he says it's not an issue. I didn't go
I don't understand.
through it that much.
Machine, I don't understand.
Yeah.
He's saying you can put the dirty clothing in the washing machine.
Dishes, not clothing. Dishes. Dishwasher.
Yeah. So you put the dirty
dishes inside the dishwasher. Then the timer goes on and it turns it on and it goes and it turns off and that's it. Same by
4 o'clock. You know that you eat in at 12 or 1 o'clock. You have enough time. מה קרה עם עובדה לחול? לא הבנתי. עובדה לחול. הרבה דברים שעושים, לא עושים ביום טוב בגלל עובדה לחול. אנחנו לא רוצים לעשות יום טוב שיהיה כמו חול. מה קרה עם זה?
So the whole thing about noise, he says, is machloket rishonim, Rashba, Tosfot, and stuff like that. So he allows it for Yom Tov. And turning on a machine via a timer. So you can technically... my question on this whole idea is, we just said before in Shulchan Aruch, you shouldn't do the pepper in the pepper mill or the mustard in the mustard mill because it's over the chol. Now all of a sudden, Shmuvadia is allowing me to use a electric mixer. Right? I don't know. I don't know, but he's mad to it. So if someone asks you allowed to do it, you're allowed to do it. I don't know what to tell you. So over the chol is always something. Yeah, it's very. No, it's yes, it's Yakut Yosef. This is Yakut Yosef. The Naxon did not even bring down the electric mixer and grinder. I'm bringing from the Yakut Yosef he brought it. Yeah. Okay. I think he wanted to steer clear of the electric stuff, but I thought it would be a chidush to bring it down. So here it is. Okay. So that is on that. We dealt with this. While we're dealing with this, we'll just talk briefly because it's in the same siman. Not brought in the Tzurba though. What about measuring on Yom Tov? Measuring
food.
Measuring food.
לשקול. לשקול. פוד על משקל. On a scale.
So he writes over here, you're allowed to measure food flavorings and seasonings. However, this is only permitted if the wrong amount of seasoning could spoil the food. Meaning, if I use too much of the spice, it's going to ruin the whole thing. Then I'm allowed to measure. Otherwise, I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to weigh meat. I'm not allowed to measure a cup of rice on Yom Tov. I just can take the cup. I cannot measure it dafka like this. But you're allowed to weigh on Yom Tov for a mitzvah. I can weigh the matzah. I'm obviously not using an electric scale. Maybe if I put it on a timer, maybe I could. But then you could get it once. You can't keep taking on and off. But waiting for a mitzvah would be allowed on Yom
What's the
Tov. Okay.
waiting for mitzvah? What?
A matzah, I have to know how much kazayit it is.
Forget
I have a manual.
Okay.
What do you mean? I just gave it to you. What
Give me a
else?
couple of matzah. Give me more. I don't need only matzah.
I need maror. I need a kazayit
Can you
maror.
give me a piece of meat.
How much kiddush? How much?
לא אומר לשקול.
Yeah. So you have to eat a certain amount to that.
אני איתך, אני פשוט חושב, אם אני אקח בשר, if I take meat, I'm allowed to put it on a scale to see if I can eat it because it's not
Even within the mitzvah, yes.
בשביל diet.
אם הרופא אמר לך שאתה צריך, אז כן.
Mitzvah, mishmat mi'oy.
הרופא אמר לה.
Okay. Now, let's get into our next topic, Abotay. We're saying here, you're saying in the general form of, yeah. I think here it might be because it's you're saying is it teichen at all? That's it's mashma that it is. It's mashma that it is.
לעשות את האוכל, אתה צריך לשער, פחות או יותר.
נכון.
אבל לעשות
תגיד לי, אז אלה שרוצים לצייר כמה, לפני שבאו המשקלים, אז מה היה? חצי כוס. אז מה, לא, אז היו תואמים כל פעם, היו תואמים, רואים, עדיין לא טוב, עוד קצת, נגמר. אז אם אפשר לתת בזה בשביל מה צריך מצווה.
נכון, אז רק ליצור מצווה.
Okay, we're good? Okay. We did Taichen. Now we're going to do Borer. Borer on Yom Tov. So let's review really briefly. To do Borer, to separate one thing from the other on Shabbat, I need to have three things, three qualifications. What do I need to have? Right? We're on page 100 right now, page 100. We have to always take the ochel from the non-good, the good from the non-good. That's number one. I have to do it biyad, with the hand, not with any instrument for selecting. And then I have to do it miyad, right away, for that eating on that.
To do what, miyad?
Miyad, biyad, and ochel. To do borer on Shabbat.
By hand, you mean?
Yes.
By hand.
No,
The hand.
A fork is like a hand.
Right. Fork is a hand.
Yeah.
Fork is a hand. Okay. That's what I need. Is there a difference on Yom Tov? So we're going back to Maseches Beitzah, Rabotai. We're on page 100 in your Tzurba packets. We are on source 51, which is actually a Mishnah, Maseches Beitzah, on Daf Yudalit Amud Bet. It says over here as follows in the Mishnah: Haborer kitniot v'Yom Tov. Someone wants to select from the legumes. Okay, so let's say he has peas there and other legumes, and he wants to take the peas out from the other beans. So, Bet Shammai omrim borer ochel ve'ochel. He must separate the food from the food. Meaning he takes the ochel, just like on Shabbat. You take the ochel you take what you want from what you don't want. Uvet Hillel omrim borer kedarko. You can Kidarko, like you'll do on a weekday. Like you do on a weekday. Beheko, bekanon, uv tamhui, on his lap with a funnel, with a large plate. Avalo bitvala, velo benafa, velo bichvara. But not with a board, not with a fine sieve, nor with a coarse sieve. You can't use a specialized instrument for selecting. He can also rinse it and skim it. So the Bet Hillel is saying I can select like I would select on a weekday. It not necessarily has to be ochel from the psolit. I can take either way. Okay.
אתה יכול להזיז את הפסולת, לקחת לה אוכל.
So let's take a look in the Gemara. The Gemara says, Tanya, Amar Gamliel, Bameh Devarim Amurim. When did he say this? The Bet Hillel say that one can take the psolit from the ochel. I kiddarko. I don't have to take the ochel only. Kishaha ochel merubeh al hapisolit. That's when the food is a lot more than the pistolet. What's the chidush?
So the intention is to eat the good, not the bad.
I want it, but usually on Shabbat I have to select the good.
Right.
Cannot select the bad.
Right.
Here, Bet Hillel says on Yom Tov I can select the bad.
So
In which case, the good is
more
kisha ochel merubeh al psolet. That there's a lot of food.
when you're going to eat, most of the time you are going to touch the good, the food.
No,
to eat.
I'm taking out the bad from the plate.
You have a whole pot of rice, and on top of that, there's peas. But you don't want the peas. So you can take out the peas
Yet,
instead of taking
the rice. Shabbat, you have to take the rice. You cannot touch the peas. You have to take the rice. You cannot remove the peas. Right? You have to take the rice on Shabbat. In Bet Hillel saying, on Yom Tov, I can remove the peas.
Less. The more is the rice.
Correct.
That's why I can-
Because there's more rice than there is peas. If there were more peas than the rice, divrei hakol, notel et ha'ochel umeniach et ha'poselet.
Right. You have ochel ve'ochel.
Right.
not solid.
Yeah, correct.
כן, אבל בשבילך זה פסולת.
Huh?
That's already that's
solid.
yeah, that's already given. That's in Hilchot Shabbat. We said what you don't like is considered psolet, even though it's ochel.
אבל אני רוצה את זה אחר כך. אני לא...
ועכשיו מה?
אני עכשיו לוקח את האורז, ואת הפיד אני משאיר אותו, לאכול אותו עם הבשר. סתם דוגמה. אז זה אוכל, וזה
So
אוכל.
then you're dealing with
יש פה בורר או לא?
your situation. Then is question is it miyad, right? What is the definition of miyad? Is miyad this instant or is miyad this su'uda? Okay, so that's a whole different question. Here we're dealing with
אין בעיה.
taking so not that I'm going to eat it later. Our cases where I'm not going to eat it at all. I can't eat peas. Okay, don't worry about later. Okay,
אז זה פסולת.
fine. So
Right.
now we're good. This is the case. So Bet Hillel is saying it depends. What's more? If there's more food, I should take the psolet. If there's more psolet, then I should take the food. That's basically what Bet Hillel said. So first of all, the Gemara says the psolet meruba al ha'ochel mi ika man deshari. If there's more psolet than there is food, then the food is batel to the psolet, and the whole thing is muksan. You can't touch it.
What?
It's muksan.
מוקצה.
Yeah, it's muktzah. I can't use it because there's more psolet. It's garbage. It's refuse. What am I touching it for? Okay. So look, no, that's not the case. The nafish bitirha, when taking out involves a great effort. Vizutar b'shu'uram, but the amount of impurities is similar. I will tell you the essence of Bet Hillel. What is Bet Hillel saying? And halacha, this is going to be the halacha. Bet Hillel is saying on Yom Tov, when you do borer, how do you do it? On Yom Tov, we want you to work less. Okay? The idea is less tircha, less work. So whatever is easier to remove. If there's more food, then removing the psolet is easier. It's less work on Yom Tov. If there is more psolet, then taking the food is easier. So that's the way you should do borer. That is the hidush of the Bet Hillel. That what? Do what is easier in the borer. Unlike Shabbat, where I have to always take the ochel, on Yom Tov, I take what's easier to get the job done. Okay? That's what he says over here. Now, another question, we know that when it comes to Shabbat, it has to be miyad. That's seudah. At least that seudah is considered miyad. Maybe 15 minutes before, a half hour before, maybe an hour before. We saw that before. But what about Yom Tov? Does borer also have to be miyad miyad right before the suda, before I eat it? Ematai hitiru livorer. When is it allowed to do borer? Says the Rashba. It's right away. It has to be right away. He's going to do borer now and leave it for later in the day. I feel the yom tov aser. So that's in source 52 on page 101. The Rashba says, just like Shabbat, you do borer miyad right away. The Maggid Mishnah brings down, and he says, no, that's not true. They did not mention any distinction like that. Rather, halacha is similar to being mibashel and ka'aifa. Shemurtu lo'oichel boy bayoim. Right? Usually, I can cook on Yom Tov. For what? That suda? No, I can cook for that day. Right? I'm allowed to do ochel nefesh for that day. I just can't do from one day Yom Tov to the next day of Yom Tov. But I can cook for that day in the morning for later on. So says the Maggid Mishnah, if I can cook in the morning for the evening, as long as it's the same day of Yom Tov, then why can't I do borer in the morning for the evening? It's the same thing. And that's what the Maggid Mishnah brings down. This he says that the Rif brings it. And he says the Rambam doesn't make a distinction at all. And Kain nearly the Ikar. This seems right to me, and this is the Ikar. Says the Shulchan Aruch in source 54 on page 101. Haborer kitniyot b'yom tov. Borer kiderko. Like we saw in the Gemara. He does it with on his lap, and he can do it with the large vessel. Says the Ramah. As long as you want to eat it that day, not during that Suda, that day. But he cannot use a tablet, he cannot use a winnow nor a sieve. These are specialized instruments for selecting. And when is this? Right? It all has to do with the tircha. It has to do with the tircha. How much tircha am I putting in? So the lesser tircha, that's the way I should do the borer. So we'll take a minute outside here in the laws of the holiday of Naxon. And he says as follows. Here is borer. Here as follows. The act of separating something from within a mixture constitutes the malacha of borer, which is generally forbidden on Yom Tov as well. However, certain situations, one may act more leniently on Yom Tov than on Shabbat. For example, selection that is normally performed in the daily course of food preparation and that cannot be performed with the same results prior to Yom Tov is permitted on Yom Tov. Right? I'm allowed to do borer for Yom Tov on Yom Tov. While borer that is permitted need not be done solely for immediate use, it may only be done for use that day. I'm allowed to do borer in the morning for something later on that day. Not a problem. Now he writes, this is the main point to get out of this sugya. One must perform the selection in the easiest possible manner. So you don't go, what's the ochel? What is the easiest way to do this borer? Okay? You cannot do it with a special instrument. You cannot do it with a special instrument. It has to be eaten for that day. And the easiest way possible. So instead of bad from good, exactly. Exactly. If they're both equal, 50-50, rice and the peas, and I only want the rice, you can go either way. It's the same thing, right? If it's equal, either way.
We say that this is to be by itself, and this is considered to be boiled. Meaning to say, at a certain size, we say, okay, this is considered to be a mixture.
Right. So your question is, what is a mixture? That's your question. So we deal with the Hilchot Shabbat. If it's something that is mixed within each other, it's a mixture. If it's separate, then it's separate.
That's my question. What is a mixture? Mixture is apples, a basket of apples. Is that considered a mixture?
Mixture.
You have that and
Mixture.
together,
Yeah, that's a mixture.
but it stands all by itself.
That's still a mixture. It's in a basket. It's in a basket. It's all mixed up. It's considered a mixture.
When do I define mixture? And
When it's not a mixture. If it's all flat and you have maybe it's separated, right? Then that's not a mixture. Remember, another way to easy to deal with mixtures on Shabbat or Yom Tov is to make it no longer a mixture. Like you're saying, the basket of apples. If I take out the basket of apples and I throw it on the table, and now they're all individual apples and no longer in a mixture.
the reason I'm asking is because, let's, for example, books,
Right.
No, it's individual. It's this whole stack, but now I'm starting to put it away. I am aware.
So we said Lachamaisa no.
Exactly. So that's what
So
I'm saying.
Lachamaisa we know. There are those who say yes. We say no. You can do it. You can put it back. It could be an issue, but it's not for this. All right. We gave I think 5 or 6 years in Borer last time around the Hilchot Shabbat. We have to go back to it again. But right now we're doing Hilchot Yom Tov. So we got the sugya of Borer for Yom Tov. Okay. So that deals with that. Okay. Right. One may pick out clothing that one needs from a pile of clothing Yom Tov, provided that he needs that article of clothing that day. Yes.
What do you do then? You want to serve it in front of your guest.
Right.
You have a few. You want to. You can inside, so you can serve it. But you're going to serve it like this. It's not physically.
Take out the good ones and take it off the vine.
What?
Take off the good ones, take it off the vine, and give those to serve. Tell him I saved you the step of taking it off. It's already ready to eat. When you buy it from Bingo, the grapes are already placed in the plastic container. You can't take it off. It's perceptible without a cluster too.
Maybe do it. But, good and bad. We have the cluster is going to be missing a little bit, but it's going to be good and bad. So the good and bad is not.
You can take I take a big cluster that has the big and the good, and I can eat some of the good ones right now. So I didn't burn for miyad, biyad, la'ochel, and just happens to have non-good ones as well on it. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah, you can do that. But then you're going to be left with nothing on the vine. Okay, fine. Let's go to our final topic for today, which is muktzah on Yom Tov. Now, a lot of people like to say, "Oh, muktzah on Yom Tov is more chomer than it is on Shabbat." Okay, maybe, maybe not. Let's see. For Sfaradim, yes. For Ashkenazim, not necessarily. Let's see, but there are cases of muktzah that are more lenient on Yom Tov than on Shabbat. So there's both. But let's take a look. We're on we're skipping to page 115, Rabotai. Page 115. It's always good to skip a few pages. So we're on page because we finished this the other year, now we're starting the beginning of the next year. Okay, so there is the Gemara and Masechet Beitza on Daf Beis. Okay, so the Gemara says over here as follows. Let's read the Gemara together. And we'll say, here we go. Amar lach Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman would say, Gabi Shabbat, the stam lan tanak Rabbi Shimon. When it comes to Shabbat, we usually teach like Rabbi Shimon, and he is a little bit more makel when it comes to muktzah. Okay, mokim la. Where's it going? Then what do you say? Mokim la levet Hillel Rabbi Shimon. So on Shabbat we say Bet Hillel like Rabbi Shimon. Aval gabe Yom Tov, the stam lan tanak Rabbi Yehuda. On Yom Tov, when we have a stam teaching of the Tana, we say it to Rabbi Yehuda. Stomokim la levet Hillel Rabbi Yehuda. So we're going to say that Beit Hillel holds a Rabbi Yehuda, which is stricter when it comes to muktzah.
Because people that take Yom Tov light, that's why you.
Why is this very good? So they would say Shabbat echamira v'lo atel zuzileba. Shabbat is more chomer, so people are not going to be taking it cheaply, not going to make fun of it. So stam lan Rabbi Shimon the mekel. Therefore, I can go like Rabbi Shimon who's mekel with muktzah because I'm going to keep it still strong. But Yom Tov the kill v'atel zuzileba. But Yom Tov, which people already make it light of because I can do ochel nefesh or so many malachas I can do. So I can just do everything. Oh, so therefore stam lan Rabbi Yehuda de machmir. So now I have to be more machmir and hold like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to the cases of muktzah. So this is the Gemara, Masechet Beitza, that seems to say we are more strict on Yom Tov, on muktzah, than we are on Shabbat. And so says the Rambam. Take a look at the Rambam and source 2 on page 116. ויש ביום טוב מה שאין בשבת איסור מוקצה. שהמוקצה אסור ביום טוב ומותר בשבת. There are certain muktzas that are asur on Yom Tov, says the Rambam, and are mutar on Shabbat. Give me 1 second. מפני שיום טוב קל משבת. אסור בו המוקצה שמא יבוא לזלזל בו. What's an example of this? What's an example of this? You're going to see in the Mishnah Berurah in source 5, he's going to say stuff that are destined for sale as merchandise. Okay? Wholesale stuff. Okay? So the guy has wholesale stuff, regular stuff, food, things like this. On Shabbat, I don't have to designate it and say, I'm going to be able to use it on Shabbat. If I want to go on and take it, I can take it. On Yom Tov, according to the Rambam, I can't take it. I didn't designate it beforehand. It's going to be considered muktzah. Another thing is muktzah machmas mius. When it comes to garbages on Yom Tov, more machmer than we are on Shabbat. We're gonna get into our garbage can is not a problem because it's not really just muktzah in there, because you also have ochel in there. We throw in actual food in there, so there's stuff that are actual ochel, so you're allowed to move it. So it's not an issue. Anyway, let's just go slowly through this. Says the Rambam. So too, as muktzah is also, so too something that is created on Yom Tov is also forbidden. Now, that's the Rambam, and says the Tzurba, that's also the Rif Shita. But the Rosh, the Rashi, and the Rabbeinu Tam, and the Ri, they all say, look in source number 3 of a Rashi, K'sav Le'el, Dekaim Alon Kirbi Shimon, after Yom Tov. We hold the Kirbi Shimon also on Yom Tov for Muktzah. And we don't have any extra Muktzah on Yom Tov. So Rashi, Rosh, Rabbeinu Tam, and the Ri, they all say, like Kirbi Shimon on Yom Tov, no extra categories of Muktzah on Yom Tov. Shulchan Aruch, source number 4, on page 117. Muktzah, af al pisha mutar b'Shabbat, ichmiru bo b'Yom Tov asuruhu. So it says the Shulchan Aruch, like the Rif and the Rambam, there are certain Muktzahs that are more machmer on Yom Tov. Says the Ramah, v'yesh matir muktzah afilu b'Yom Tov. And there are some who say there are no extra cases of Muktzah. Then he brings an example. Muktzah other than animals, such as storehouse of produce. Here he says, you go in oitzer, shel perot, ve'etzim. So on Yom Tov, he can just say, I'm going to take it from here. He doesn't have to show exactly which one he's going to take. But that's the example, taking from the storehouse of what's it called? Of stuff. That's an example of Muktzah that doesn't exist on Shabbat, but does exist on Yom Tov. So we're going to take a look in the Yalkut Yosef right now, just to see how he brings down this halakha, Rabotai, so we have a better and clearer understanding. And he says as follows: there are certain items that are not Muktzah on Shabbat and may be handled without restriction, but the Muktzah on Yom Tov, it may not be handled. One example he brings is the fruit peels that are inedible to people, but are edible for mammals or fowl, or bones that are fit to feed to dogs. These items are not Muktzah on Shabbat. On Shabbat, if I have something that makes food for the animals, I can move it. Right? But on Yom Tov, I cannot.
So how would you take
That's Muktzah Machmas Mius that exists on Yom Tov and not on Shabbat. Okay? So therefore, he should first place a piece of fruit or a piece of bread into the plate, and then place the shells and peels in it. Since the plate held an item that is not Muktzah in it the entire time, it has not become Muktzah. And this is permissible to pick up the plate with everything that is in it and empty it into the garbage can. Okay? So that's one Muktzah that exists on Yom Tov. It doesn't exist on Shabbat. And for Sfaradim, that's the way we pass it. But Chamavaji says this is the way we have to follow, like Shulchan Aruch. Another case, like we spoke about, if someone regularly sells merchandise in wholesale quantities, such entire cartons or sacks of fruits and grain, and he never would consider taking a portion from the carton for his personal use, this is Muktzah on Yom Tov. Therefore, if someone decides on Yom Tov that he wishes to eat a portion from one of his cartons, he's not allowed to touch it. If it was Shabbat and he wants to go and take from it, he's allowed to take for it. It's not Muktzah. Wholesale, and he has cartons of food. Okay? So on Yom Tov, Asur to take it from there. That's the extra Muktzah category on Yom Tov.
My father had a store.
Yeah.
and Shabbat is closed. But some people they rent short with
Wholesale or retail? It's permissible to go to Yom Tov on Yom Tov to someone who sells food on a retail basis and take items from his store, such as fruit, eggs, oil, or wine, as long as they do not disguise the price of items taken. Because when it's retail, even the guy would sometimes go into his stuff to take it. So it's already Ke'ilu is designated to be used. But wholesale, most people don't go into their cartons to take things out. Right? That those are stuff that are, set aside, they're not to be used. So on Yom Tov, that becomes muksa. So wholesale is a problem, retail is not. Okay? But that's an extra muksa that's a Yom Tov that doesn't exist on Shabbat. From wholesale, yeah. Yeah. It's food. It's food. And only on Yom Tov it becomes muksa. So that's the chumrah. That's the whole chumrah of muksa. Yeah, you're right.
What? לא, אוכל מותר.
לא, אבל זה כמו סימוקים, ענבים, שמת את זה על יד גד, ודחית את זה בידיים. דחית, אני לא רוצה להשתמש בזה. עד שזה לא יתייבש. למה זה עכשיו מוקצה? עד שלא יהיה צימוקים ויגמר. פה, אתה דחית את הדבר הזה, אתה לא משתמש בזה, זה הולסל, אני רק מוכר את זה.
So this becomes muksa for Yom Tov, not for Shabbat. Question to you is, this year, second day of Yom Tov is Shabbat. So which muksa is it? Can I go into my wholesale carton or not? It's Shabbat and it's Yom Tov. What? So you want to say it's muksa of Shabbat? So I'm allowed to go into it. So he says, everybody says, when Yom Tov coincides with Shabbat, the extra strictnesses of muksa are not enacted, since everyone is careful to refrain from all the whole idea was because Yom Tov, they're going to zilzul, therefore extra muksa. But now it's Shabbat, there's no zilzul. So therefore, I can go back to my regular muksa categories and not extra muksa categories that exist in Yom Tov. Okay? So that is when it's Shabbat and Yom Tov. Right. That's right. They can have 2 days, but actually they're going to be in the next parsha already, right? They're going to have the nasa, right? Okay. But yeah, they're not getting away with going to work or driving around the next day. Which is, if we have time, we'll talk about another Indian about Yom Tov training. Anyway, any human food that spoils on Yom Tov and now is only fit for animals, that's muksa. You can't use it. According to Shulchan Aruch. Okay?
Well, what we do, we throw it away.
You throw it away because it's muksa. It's you can say it's what's it called, tzarich mekaimoy or something like that. But it's muksa. I can't handle it otherwise. I can't give it to the animal. I can't move it. Right? Fine. Now, Tosefot in Mesechet Beitza and Davchet says, listen, if I have an oven and it has ash in there, and I want to bake something in it, mutar to bake on Yom Tov. It has ash in there. Ash is garbage, and it's muksa. Can I take it out of the oven? I want to bake in there. You're allowed to. So says the muksa ain't isul tal to be Yom Tov b'shvil aychol nefesh or simchas Yom Tov. So if I need to move it because of simchas Yom Tov or aychol nefesh, I can move muksa. So now all of a sudden you have a kula. You have a kula by Yom Tov. I can take out the ash from the oven because I need to bake in there. That's what he had. B'shuv simchas Yom Tov. So, see, at one point you're saying that chumrah is by muksa, which there is, but at the same point there are kulas by Yom Tov. Right? The Ramah says, just like Tosfot says, and a lot of moving around. Shulchan Aruch in a similar case, he says, I'm baking in an oven, and the wall of the oven fell into the oven, and it can ruin the bread. Right? Mutar ligarfo. I'm allowed to move it because I need to move it because I can bake my bread in there. So I'm allowed to move things in order to do what's it called Simchat Yom Tov, to do Ochel Nefesh. Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata says, he says, first of all, we know anything that's an egg that's laid on Yom Tov or oil remaining in a lamp that was lit in our Yom Tov is forbidden. Using muktzah items such as a stone to crack nuts is also forbidden. Moving muktzah in order to feed one animal is also forbidden on Yom Tov. Now he says, this is the chidush. Kli shemalachta li'isur b'Shabbat. Sometimes you have a kli that is it's Isser, it's kli shalachta le'isser. It's made for using it for Isser stuff, so therefore it's muksa on Shabbat. Av Yom Tov, ain't Isser malacha zo. There is no Isser in this. Harei dinu kedin kli shalachta leheter. Umutzah l'taltalo v'Yom Tov. There are certain kli shemalachta le'isser that on what's it called? On Shabbat, you're not allowed to cook with it, right? But on Yom Tov, you're allowed to cook with it. So no longer is a muktzah. It's kli shalachta leheter. I can move it around now. Because now it's a heter dik malacha. Exactly. So muksa can change based on Shabbat Yom Tov, what it is. Frying pan, right? A grill, whatever it is. And on Shabbat I can't touch it. This is not muksa, right? And all of a sudden on Yom Tov, all this becomes permissible. More so, we know on Shabbat raw foods are muksa because you can't do anything with it. Raw eggs might be okay because chazanim drink it, so it might not be muksa. Raw potatoes, raw rice, raw stuff like this. Muksa. Guess what? Yom Tov, not muksa. Because I can cook it. So it's mutar.
The whole point of muksa is with you.
Right. So what comes out here is you have to know which day it is. And then based on the day, there is different categories of muksa. So muksa is not static. Shabbat and Yom Tov. Muksa and Shabbat is one form of muksa. Muksa and Yom Tov is another form of muksa. And says the Pnei Halacha, we'll end with this, and then we'll talk about one more topic that's outside of this Tzurba. On Shabbat, some food items are muksa because they cannot be eaten in the current state. These include flour, raw chicken, raw meat, raw potatoes. In contrast, on Yom Tov, cooking is permitted. So these items are not muksa. Some objects are muksa on Shabbat because they're used in food preparation, such as burners and pots. These items are not muksa on Yom Tov because cooking them is permitted. Similarly, desk lamps and electrical appliance with a heating element or incandescent filament are muktzah mahmat gufam on Shabbat because they contain fire, which you're not lit in Shabbat. Like we said, if you have a heater with the shows the red, like it looks like it's fire, you're not allowed to move it on Shabbat. But guess what? On Yom Tov, you're allowed to move fire, so you're allowed to move the heater. It's not a problem. So you have to know what day you're on. What muktzah is it? Okay, we'll end over here in the Tzurba. Just want to bring out one more halakha that last week I was away on Shabbat and we were discussing there some of the halakhot, and someone asked a question. I got the question wrong, but I got the answer wrong. I thought I understood the question. I didn't understand the time, and then I went into it in depth and I asked Rabbi Yigal Chaimov a question on it and asked Rabbi Shai Tahan on it as well. But here's the question. Here's the question that was proposed to me. Second day of Yom Tov. Yom Tov Sheni Shegoliot. So us here in Galus, we have second day. We have 9 American Jews in the shul. Okay? And then we finally got a minyan. A guy, Ben Eretz Yisrael, walks in. Okay?
Now you have 10.
Minyan or ein minyan?
Minyan.
Chaim says minyan. Anyone want to take another guess? Can I pray? B'tzibur, can I make a minyan? Can I say kaddish? Can I say all these things?
He's not you saying
So,
what you're saying, but he has
so in the Chazon Vadia, in the Yalkut Yosef, he writes there, you don't have a minyan. There is no tzibur, there is no minyan, and everybody has to pray on his own.
No,
Because your chiyuv tefillah and his chiyuv tefillah is separate tefillot.
I want to just that's what he said. What if he wouldn't done it? He would not done it. He's not here.
Exactly.
That's exactly was my question.
No,
That's exactly what I said to the guy who told me this question. And then he showed me first in the Chazon Vadia where it said it. He said no one's allowed to daven minyan there. They have to all daven separately. B'yechidut.
No, but it doesn't make sense because at the end of the day, he is just sitting there as an answering person.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily.
But you have to have a similar chiyuv, even though you're not a chiyuv tefillah at this moment. Doesn't make a difference. Even if I daven already, I can technically daven again. I can daven all day long. But our tefillahs are on the same
Are
thing.
you going to take if the
But-
person he's not religious as in the minyan?
He cannot be counted in the minyan. Now you can count the minyan. You cannot even read a Sefer Torah there. You can't take a Sefer Torah.
Who?
You cannot take out a Sefer Torah. If there's 9, you can't do Kriyat Yom Tov. You cannot do it.
If the guy
He died already. He can't do-
We don't care. Did daven, did not daven. Doesn't make a difference. A Ben Eretz Yisrael with 9 Bnei Chutz La'aretz, they cannot be mitzaref to make minyan. That's what Katuv in the Chazon Ovadia, and then we said you cannot put it together. I believe Moshe argues on this, but that's the halacha. Why? Who argues? Well, because they cannot be mitzaref. The chiyuvim of tefillah are different. They cannot. They cannot be connected. What? The obligation of the day is different for both of them. They cannot come together to make a minyan. He's saying I already davened, so I can come and be mitzaref in minyan. I understand what you're saying, and I'm telling you that in order to be mitzaref in minyan, I have to have somewhat shaykhis to that minyan. If I don't have a shaykhis to the minyan, I cannot be mitzaref to it. No, so what is the halacha? I don't recall the halacha. What is the halacha there? I don't recall it. Can I be mitzaref? I'm asking you. For Etzorei Shabbat. I believe not. I believe you cannot be mitzaref in that minyan. It's already for me, Shabbat. I cannot be mitzaref in the whole minyan. It's already Shabbat for me. I cannot be mitzaref in the whole minyan. It's saying you're not on the same page anymore. You can't be mitzaref in the minyan. I would have brought it today. I dafka bought the they have now Yakut Yosef Moadim. They have like a bunch of sets. I bought one of them. It's Yom Tov and Chol Hamoed. I wanted to see because here Rabbi Nachshon brought it down over here. He brings it down. He says the K'nai Mitzaref, but he quotes the Yakut Yosef. So I wanted to see it inside, so I bought it, and it says it. Beferush says it can't be Mitzaref. Everyone has to pray on their own. So, and then he writes there. Let's say you did have 10 people now. Okay, you have 10 people, and you bring out Kriyat Yom Tov. Now you're reading the Yom Tov. For him, it's Chol. It's not Yom Tov. Can I give him Aliyah? Can I give him Aliyah? No, you can't give him Aliyah. He cannot come up Aliyah. The only Aliyah he can get is if it would be a Monday or Thursday for him, or be Chol Hamoed for him. He cannot get the Aliyot of Yom Tov. He can get Musafim. If you add on, because the Chiv of the Yom is Yom Tov, and this Yom Tov for him, so he can't go up and get an Aliyah. Has to be Yom Tov the people that get the Aliyah. He can't get the Aliyah. You put Musafim, you make extra Aliyah, so he has Shaykhis to a Torah reading. He can go up and get an extra Aliyah, get Musaf, but he cannot get the actual Aliyah. Okay? And that's only if you have 10 people already who have a Yom Tov Chiyuv to hear the Kriyat Yom Tov. So it's just very interesting that the one other part that came out there, he says as follows. He says, let's say it's second day of Yom Tov for me, right? And it's Chol Hamoed, first day for him. So Shachrit is different. It's not the same Chiyuv. His Chiyuv of Chol, my Chiyuv of Yom Tov. What about Musaf? What? The Musaf is very similar. Yom Tov and not Yom Tov. And actually, there are some Geonim that say you should say Yom Tov on Chol Hamoed. So I don't know if he mitzaref to me. I'm assuming he is mitzaref to me because he does say there you can be mechaber him to lead Musaf. And he can even say Yom Tov because there are those who say that Chol Hamoed you could say Yom Tov in the Musaf. So I'm not sure if he just could be. This is I want to ask the poskim. I want for my Havana is correct. Does that mean he's mitzaref? Because you only can do because you're supposed to do the person who's the chazan is supposed to Shliach Tzibur is supposed to he's there to fulfill everybody's obligation.
If you say it's
Right? So he's a mitzaref, but he's not mitzaref, and he's a shliach, or he is mitzaref and he's also a shliach. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do, but it does say that he could go up. If there's a minyan, he can go up and he can do the musaf, and he can say Yom Tov if we're mechaber him to do that. So anyway, it's very technical. Like, how does it work out? Derech klal, stick with your Yom Tov people. Okay, make sure you have 10 of them, and give them the tibilot and give them the aliyot, and this way you're not going to have any issues. Okay, fine. We'll end over here.
Second day of Yom Tov is Shabbat, and